we'll go ahead and we'll get started. First, I want everyone to know that we're recording this for folks who aren't able to be in the meeting tonight. I've had a few folks call me. We have some elementary back to school nights, and so some parents have called. So we normally record these. So just know that we are recording this for future use for folks who weren't able to get on to the meeting tonight. So we'll go ahead and get started. But before we do, I want to thank everybody in on the call. And I want you to know that if you have any questions during this presentation, if you can, put it in the chat. We'll take a look at the chat after our presentation before we close it out. And we'll create a Q&A. If you have some questions, we can answer those. And what we'd like to do is put that on the website sometime on Monday the 16th. And if you don't get your questions answered, you can always reach out to me at central office. I'm the student service administrator for the district, and my phone number is also going to be in this recording. And one other thing, I'd ask respectfully that you cooperate by keeping your mic muted during the meeting, so that we can go through and do our best job possible presenting this information to you. I want you to know that we're in our third year of our drug testing program. And so, you know, a couple years ago, there were some questions about why we were doing it. And hopefully tonight we can answer those questions for you. And again, if you don't feel like you get the answers that you need, you can certainly reach out to me. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce who's in the call with us this evening. Ms. Krista Tipton, who is the principal at Heritage High School. She's going to go over the program overview. We also have Dr. Kaylee McMullen, who is principal at Midlothian High School. She's going to talk a little bit about the process. And we also have our assistant superintendent for human resources and student services, Ms. Kaylin Day. So Ms. Tipton, I'll drive, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. And thank you, Dr. Hemley. Thank you, parents and community members, for joining us. So yes, I just wanted to take a minute to just kind of tell you a little bit about the purpose of this program and the goals that we have as a school district in using this program. Really, it comes down to just helping students to be able to make good choices. We know that as teenagers, that peer pressure is a real thing, and that they are constantly, every single day, faced with choices and decisions. And we want to make sure that, you know, we are helping them when they get to that point where they might be tempted, that maybe there's a reason to say no, even on the weekends and in times like that when they're not, you know, at school. Obviously, if a student is under the influence or in the possession of drugs or alcohol at school, then that falls under the student code of conduct, and there's disciplinary consequences due to that. This program is really not connected to the student code of conduct and discipline. It's really more to provide a safe and conducive learning environment for the students, just for their overall care and well-being, and to really for early intervention, for us to be able to work with parents as partners when we do notice that a student has a positive test, to be able to bring you guys into the loop so that you can partner with us to help that student to make better decisions in the future. So the real reason, like we said, is really just to help the students to have some motivation to say no to drugs and alcohol. So the requirements and responsibilities. So not every student is a part of the random drug testing pool of students, but rather it is the students that are going to sign an annual consent form who are part of an extracurricular activity that is tied to something on their schedule, and that is something that they represent the school in outside of the school day typically. And also students that drive their vehicles onto our campus and buy a parking pass, being that they are driving that vehicle, we want to make sure that they are also making good choices with what it is that they're putting into their body. So there is an annual drug testing consent form that parents and students sign as part of the policy. And Dr. Hemley, remind me, was that included in their registration?
Yes, ma'am. I believe so in Skyward.
Okay. With us transitioning to Skyward, I just wasn't sure if that made it over, but it should have been part of the registration process that everybody did through Skyward. Also, parents can, if your student is not involved in an extracurricular activity that would be one of the students that might randomly be selected, or your student does not drive a vehicle, then they're not going to be in the pool of students to possibly be randomly selected. But you as a parent, if you would still like for your student to possibly be tested, then parents desiring to voluntarily test their child, regardless of participation in those activities, you may do so by signing that consent form and paying the drug testing fee. And then we would help to provide that for you as a parent. So if there's no consent form signed, then that means that the student would not be able to participate in those extracurricular activities, and they also would not be able to park on the parking lot. So it is part of the commitment to be able to do those things. So as I mentioned, the students who participate in this are students who are involved in extracurricular activities that they represent the school. They're going to be traveling. All of those things listed there, you can see, are within the categories that are possibly pulled from. And again, the students who request to park on the school property are in that pool as well.
Thank you, Ms. Tipton. I'd like to transition now to the testing process, and Dr. Kaylee McMullen is going to share that information with the group now. Dr. Kaylee?
All right. Hi, good evening. Okay, so the procedures for the drug testing, it is a random selection process for eligible students. Students will not receive prior notice of the times or the dates when the testing will occur. 2 to 20% of eligible students from that pool will be selected to test at each testing administration. During the testing, a drug testing technician from the testing company will be in the restroom where the drug testing will take place at all times. There will be 2 technicians, 1 male and 1 female, so they can be designated to the appropriate restroom. This helps ensure testing integrity. Students will provide urine samples in privacy, and the testing will be completed by an independent laboratory. So for the selection method, students participating in more than one activity, it does not increase their chances of being selected. The random tests will be conducted throughout the school year. Using confidential student numbers, the testing vendor will actually generate the random list of student numbers for a testing date, and the school personnel will not be involved in the selection process. We will just be given the list of student numbers that are generated randomly. Students who are tested positive and students who are absent on the testing day will be placed on a list for the next testing session. District employees are not involved in the drug testing process except for escorting a student to the testing site. What drugs can be detected? So Dr. Hemley gave me the slide with all the difficult drug names. So it's amphetamines, methamphetamines, cocaine, marijuana, opiate metabolites, so morphine and codeine, PCP, barbiturates, benzodiazepines, propoxyphene, and methadone and methaqualone. I think I did all right with those. So
I think you made an A. Okay. Thank you, Dr. McMullen. I'll share some of the drug testing consequences for students who test positive as a result of a test. Basically, we have three different levels. The first offense, the parent and the student will attend a conference with the coach or the sponsor of the activity in which the student participates, along with either the principal or assistant principal. The student will then participate in 2 district counseling sessions within 15 school days of the date the student receives notice of that positive test. These counseling sessions are talking about drugs, what drugs can do, choices, how to make good choices, it's basically a preventive measure for them doing something in the future. It's catching it early, talking about it, and making good choices. And then the student shall be retested on the next random test day. So if they test positive the first time, there's some counseling that goes along with a retest. And there's really no punitive consequences. Okay, the student, however, would be suspended from participation for 15 school days if they do not attend the required counseling sessions within that time frame. So, as Ms. Tipton said early, this is really not punitive. If a student is getting into some things they shouldn't, we're trying to put some things in place for them to make better choices before it escalates further. The second offense, the parent and the student will attend a conference again with the coach or sponsor of the activity in which they participate, along with the principal or assistant principal. Then there's some punitive consequences. The student shall be removed from participation in extracurricular activities and or parking on school property for 90 school days, okay? But the student shall be permitted to remain in the program and practice for the activity during this period. They must also satisfactorily complete 2 45-minute counseling sessions, and then they'll be tested at the next random test date. And then the third offense, again, a conference with a coach or sponsor, with the principal, assistant principal, and then really at that point, the student will be suspended for participation in extracurricular activities and or parking on the school property for the remainder of the student's enrollment in the district. The student and parents shall be encouraged to seek intervention and counseling at that time. I want you to know, parents, that results will not be part of your student's record. This is totally and kept separate from your student's discipline record, your student's academic record. Results will not be released to law enforcement. That has nothing to do with the Midlothian Police Department whatsoever. This is a school-based program. We do not release this information to law enforcement, nor would we release this information to another school district should the student move to another district. Also, I want to share on the website, what I want to share right here with you is that drug testing frequently asked questions. This is the drug testing video that we had at one time. We're going to replace it with the one tonight. But if you get on the website and come down through this portion of our website, you can see in a lot of detail what it is, or answers to some of your questions that you may have. For example, is there a possibility of false positives on the test? All kinds of information that goes a little bit deeper, okay? So that's on our website, and this is where our new recording of tonight's presentation will be as well. So that's our presentation tonight. I want to thank you for your partnership and support. And just a reminder that we'll put a Q&A up. We'll post that on the Safety and Security webpage by the end of the school day on the 16th. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate everybody attending tonight's meeting, and hope everybody has a great night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You bet. So if I'm looking, guys, I don't see anything in the chat, which I didn't hear anything being. So what we'll do is hopefully if parents may have some questions, they may reach out to you. If they do, just redirect them to me, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability. So, Kaylee, Krista, thank you. Mr. Dyer, thank you again for attending tonight's meeting.